Sisi wanasiasa ni kama shetani.
Guy, anyway.
Gumzo News TV, Jicho la Tatu.
It was also to make Musalia Mudavadi the president.
We sometimes want to be too localized to the extent that you don't see the bigger picture. Let Malava show us the way by showing us what is good for Malava and what is the bigger picture. Do you know, I've been telling people it's usually very difficult on African soil to defeat a president who is looking for his second term.
And it is for the citizens to determine that they would like to extend the tenure of the person who for the time being holds the reins of power.
Okay.
And clearly from the agitation that we are seeing, we believe there's sufficient political consciousness, robustness, there is cause, there is will, and there is ability to remove the present government.
Na mimi pia niko Minister for Foreign Affairs, kwa hivyo naona mambo mengi ambayo yanafanyika katika bara la Afrika. Nilikuwa naambia watu kwamba ni vigumu sana kumshinda rais ambako yuko mamlakani na katiba inamruhusu kwenda kwa muhula wa pili. Tukumbuke kwamba ule upepo wa NAK, kumbukeni, ulikuja kwa sababu Moi alikuwa amemaliza mihula yake. Alikuwa amemaliza 2 terms zake na alikuwa anaondoka. Sasa wave ya Kibaki kafanya nini? Ikaingia.
What's your take on the politics of term limits and the sentiments by some politicians?
We start from the soundbite so that we give it some value. As you know, I was Secretary General of the Amani National Congress. And part of our effort as a party was not just to seek to capture power where there was an outgoing president. It was also to make Musalia Mudavadi the president. But he made it difficult for us to make him president when there was an outgoing president. I therefore appreciate where he is speaking from now that he is an insider who imagines that he is comfortably ensconced in the Kenya Kwanza government. And sitting in that comfortable place, he's turned a blind eye to the goings on in the country, the things which made us think that we needed him as president, because we believed that Musalia Mudavadi was a pair of safe hands. But you can see where he is. Terms are given by the citizens in democracies, unless it is a monarchist regime, which we are not. We are a liberal democracy, a republican government, and it is for the citizens to determine that they would like to extend the tenure of the person who for the time being holds the reins of power.
Okay.
And clearly from the agitation that we are seeing, we believe there's sufficient political consciousness, robustness, there is cause, there is will, and there is ability to remove the present government.
Constitutionally.
Constitutionally. The liberal democracy talks about the individual, and that the starting point is life, that to secure these inalienable rights, government is constituted, deriving its just powers from the consent
of the governed.
Yes. And that whenever any government fails to secure these rights, then it must be removed and be replaced by another government.
Yes.
That is liberal democracy. And yes, he's right where he says that I was there when we crafted the manifesto that constitutes the Kenya Kwanza government's social contract with Kenyans. But it is true that I'm not there as the Kenya Kwanza government abuses the people's rights and takes away lives, that they are the cause that President William Ruto has run away from the social contract that the generation Zoom, the Gen Zs, were trying to take him back to tell him that you signed a social contract with us and you have run away from that social contract. Now look, if you have destroyed limb and life, you fail the rest of the tests in liberal democracy. Because the people must be there first to enjoy liberty and to pursue happiness. So if you have a government that is abducting, and I'm aware that my nephew here, my son, justifies the abductions. He uses euphemisms. He talks about people disappearing. We need not remind him about what has happened in other totalitarian regimes under Nazi Germany, under apartheid South Africa, that you would be vaporized and you just disappear. And as somebody said on this show earlier on, some people buried clothes, some buried pieces of human beings. Government that fails the test of protection of human life loses the raison d'etre. And it doesn't matter whether it is the government itself that is perpetrating those ills or it is somebody else. If it happens under the watch of that government, then that government has failed. Yes. The government has got the responsibility to protect limb and life, both from itself or by itself and by other perpetrators. That is why police services and police forces are constituted in society, not to shoot people in the legs, but to protect them. That they are civilian entities that are supposed to work with the people, to find out what endangers people's rights and freedom of movement, of living, of enjoying happiness, and therefore intervenes. It is a service. It's not a murder squad. But when that service becomes a force that chaperones goons who are destroying property as estates, who are destroying property as life, then the regime that is in power for the time being deserves to be removed democratically. And that is where this country is. We cannot tiptoe around issues and apologize for this regime. Never mind that we may have been made insiders, that we are now included, and that the misrule is now broad-based.
Okay. You have talked about Nazism. I hope there is no one Joseph Goebbels who was Hitler's propaganda minister. Yes, you had a point.
You know, Ayuba, as Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the US, propounded during his Gettysburg Address, he spoke to the longevity or the eternity of a government for the people, with the people, and by the people. This government, of course, as we see it, as it is with every other government under a democracy, is always elected by the people and conducts its affairs for the interest of the people. If we're to ask ourselves the question...
But Mudavadi doesn't
which do not
have that byline.
Killing them.
I mean,
extrajudicially.
Okay. Before even the live, the Prime Cabinet Secretary Javas, government by the people, ideally he ought to have talked about saying the Kenyan people and their importance in the polls in 2027. He talks about incumbency, and there's a lot of emphasis and attention on the man, the president and his re-election and not by who in this case?
Correct. And Ayub, it has not been my fortune to listen to the entire speech of Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, and so that I appreciate his contextualize it. Yeah, contextualize it based on the soundbite that has been aired here. And also, we must resist the temptation as a people to fall into the trap of perpetual dystopia, which seems to be the religion, if at all, of most of the opposition luminaries. Now, factually speaking, of course, we may not be in heaven, but we must not wish for hell. Yet, there are leaders, for example, Opposition United, so-called, who are in purgatory and now promising that they have got the power and ability to take a nation to heaven when themselves, in fact, have no religion and belong to none in matters salvaging the destiny of a nation. Now, look, let me give an example here. In South Africa, not so long ago, we had an entire nation rise and buffeted by the storms of protests by the students under the fees must fall protests and riots. Here in Kenya, not so long ago, we have seen the commitment and effort of our government to reduce by, I think, 40% the cost of public university education.
Which, according to a student, is not working for them.
Now, you see, it's just been proclaimed a few weeks
ago.
Yes. It's just about to start rolling out. In fact, there's a directive now to public universities to institute that directive. It is to start rolling out. Yet, there are those who are haranguing from the agoras that it is not going to work. Yet, even the implementation is just about to start. And that's what I'm saying, that we must not find ourselves oversubscribing to the gospel of the dystopian, false angels who want to imagine that actually nothing is actually happening. Let's face it. There are things that all of us are concerned that should even work better. Okay. The roads that are being constructed, for instance, are they being completed? Are roads being constructed, for example? The issue of the 40% reduction of public education, public university fees, is it a sigh of relief for many families across Kenya, many who cannot afford? Those are things that we should be looking at. And look, we may find ourselves trapped in the web of high-sounding discourses in the capitals and peri-urban areas. Yet, as Honorable Nyamita indicated a little earlier, there are people within villages and hamlets, Ayub, to whom the issue of the relief in itself, for example, for education, or when a project is coming to their doorstep, whether it's electricity, etc., it is a revolution idea for them. So, for people who from maybe this show who will hop into their SUVs and drive off into the corner offices, should not imagine that the way the economy is working for them is the same way economy is working for citizens in, for example, Mandera, or is it Hargadera where you come from? Wajir. Or even in the villages and hamlets where my relative here, Kidi, comes from. Yeah. And Kidi, I kid you not. As a matter of fact, if the economy gets to work and projects get to be implemented, a number of times you may find that my relative, Dr. Muluka here, may be chagrined by the outcome of the election, finding himself as a victim of the Bradley effect. Because there is the social aspect of people positioning themselves that they are maybe diametrically opposed to some idea, yet some places we are having tarmac roads that were never there before. Okay. Now this is transformation, this is change.
Gumzo News TV, Jicho la Tatu.